how to continue being visible and work to building a critical mass of people who share the common interest in protecting democracy and protecting citizens and residents and human beings from the ravages of misguided nihilism, fascism, even communism. It's not really a threat at the moment, but when you get communism, you tend to get very disproportionate you get backlashes to communism. So it's a good idea to reject communism before it even gets substantial traction, because otherwise people will do that work for you, and they'll do it in a way you won't like the outcomes. So yes, there's a little bit of communists on the left. What you have to do is hear their ultimate message is they'd like things to be better. And you say, okay, sure, let's agree to disagree about your suggested method of achieving better outcomes for humans, because you want to have a revolution and burn things to the ground and build a new society out of the ashes of the old. And that's not really a tried and tested model that leads to good outcomes. It tends to lead to mass murder, human-induced famines, etc. So whilst you're right that there are certain byproducts of modern capitalism that are associated with existential threats to humanity in terms of climate change and extinction event level biodiversity loss, there's ways and means of working with capitalism and with the current levels of relative human prosperity that are products of human ingenuity and human talent, enthusiasm, competitive and cooperative spirits that have created a lot of the nice conditions for human beings that we enjoy in developed nations, but also to a degree in less developed nations where they have some access to good things, but can do with more because it's more of a logistics issue that the first world, logistics and an ideological issue that the first world could be better at sharing efficiently. Because sharing isn't a bad thing. Sharing is good. Now, it's okay to fear communism because communism sounds like the dogmatic version of enforced sharing. There's other ways to use institutions and government to find ways to help people through misfortune and to help improve people's lives, and the infrastructure that provides a scaffolding for improved lives and improved opportunity, so that we show we want a mixture of those qualities espoused by Republicans: individual hard work and dedication and talent and resilience, etc., together with the understanding of Democrats, where they are interested in advancing the ideas of structural level problems, because that's the target for Democrats, is to address big problems with big government. And Republicans often just mischaracterize the problems of the world as being all individual level problems. And they work on people's anxiety to say, well, if you personally want to avoid bad outcomes, just pretend that those bad outcomes only happen to bad people, that there's no structural conditions that facilitate good or bad things happening. Bad things happening to you are just a mark of God's disfavor or your personal inadequacies in general, sealing your doom. I think it's a sand art, baby. I think you're supposed to drop colorful sand, put glue on it, and then put sand on it. But we don't have colorful sand. So maybe you could drop beads on it if you like. We've got little beads.
I want actually to draw.
Oh, I don't think you can draw on that surface because I think it's a bit rough. Can I see? If you just pass it to me quickly, I'll have it. Pass. Is that surface drawable? I don't think so. I think once you peel that bit off, it's going to be sticky. Sticky so you can drop sand on it.
Oh.
Yeah, don't have sand.
Can you first peel this off?
I can't peel it off, but I don't have any sand for you, baby.
But then we could draw on it, right?
No, you wouldn't be able to draw. It's a sticky surface underneath. See, like a sticker. Okay, I'm even doing a broadcast, so you have to find something else to draw. Oh, I haven't checked the comment section yet. Let's have a look. We have, Kim's being so useful. Thank you, Kim. Bob's here. Hi, Bob. Hi, Phil. Hi, Kim. Kim says you could share this informative and entertaining broadcast. Why, thank you, my darling. Marsha's here. Hello, Marsha. We have some howdies, and there's some hot weather in some places of the US. It's a bit of a countdown. 2 months, less than 2 months now till we will be in the US, which is exciting. How's democracy holding up? How's democracy holding up? Let's have a look at this table, this bar chart on the left. Someone's written, nail this chart to Joe Manchin's Senate office door. It shows West Virginian opinions on Biden's proposal. So I'm really glad Maddo is focusing on this, because it highlights that Manchin isn't following the preferences of his voting base. He's in some kind of deal, and we need to find out what and who, and maybe to highlight that deal so that it puts pressure on Joe to make a better deal with the actual American people. I'll take myself out of the picture just for a sec. Here we go. Oh, Phil gave me an Appreciate Award. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. American Rescue Plan for COVID relief. 64% of polled West Virginians supported it. 68% of polled West Virginians support the American Jobs Plan. And 79% support the For the People Act. That's huge.
But I want to color the house.
Okay.
Maybe we could use this with permanent marker.
Okay, you can try, but if it's a sticky surface, baby, it's just going to wreck the textures. All right, so that's an extraordinary chart to highlight. Oops. Which highlights that Joe Manchin is not responding to polls. He does tend to have a reputation for being not your standard Democrat. It's not your standard Democratic senator. So he can pretend to be just following that identity. I don't do things, your standard things. I don't just support For the People Act because I'm expected to do it. I need bipartisan support. What that means in the context of the current political climate, if you say, I need Republicans to be on board, you're saying, I need the seditionist party to support strengthening democracy. I need the anti-democracy party to have 10 votes supporting a vote strengthening bill, a voting rights strengthening bill. I don't think he can believe that will happen, because Republicans already voted against even a hearing on the historic sacking of the US Capitol in an effort to overthrow the government and install Trump for an unearned second term, to violate the election results in a more profound way than the American system is already set up to violate the results of the popular vote in favor of the rural slanted electoral college results. Bob says he's waiting for Manchin to change parties. Manchin has more power and visibility as an outlier Democrat who helps Republicans obstruct all Democratic legislation and all Democratic efforts to protect democracy. So Manchin is a much more powerful Republican senator than he would be if he became an official Republican senator. Manchin is, I guess, a more powerful Republican senator than even Mitch McConnell at the moment, because together with Kristen Sinema, his recalcitrance to accept the reality of what the Republican Party is trying to do, that it's trying to hobble American democracy in order to preserve white dominance through the race supremacist Republican Party. American demographics are changing, and there's a new coalition in town, a coalition of educated people together with educated people whose common sense has been activated by the events of the last 2 years. Educated people who were ignoring the damage that Trump was doing to America until it became more blindingly obvious that his mismanagement of a pandemic crisis highlighted the paucity of morals in the Republican Party, highlighted the self-serving nature of their rhetoric and their acts. So I've also put Merrick Garland in the title because Merrick Garland has followed Trump's lead in using the Department of Justice to fight off a lawsuit from E.J.Carrol, who alleges that Trump raped her in a Bloomingdale's change room some decades ago. And it hurts that Merrick Garland would do that. It makes people say, we wish Sally Yates had been appointed Attorney General, because if Merrick Garland is an institutionalist like Robert Mueller, who is slavishly devoted to institutional protection rather than protection of people, that it's a mistake. I mean, Robert Mueller could have prevented hundreds of thousands of deaths from COVID by more effectively highlighting his own findings that Trump had obstructed justice, making it more politically untenable for Republicans in 2018 to fail to convict him in the Senate. If Robert Mueller had made it more clear and hadn't pretended that he owed it to Trump to not specify one way or the other that he had found 11 counts of obstruction of justice, which is a very important crime because it makes the rule of law impossible. Robert Mueller's actions helped Trump escape consequences for obstructing justice and therefore facilitated the continuing imposition of the illegitimate president, Donald Trump. He's an illegitimate president whose campaign conspired with the Russian government to influence the outcome of the election. And I'm not going to be afraid to call him an illegitimate president just because those on the right are going to make hay with calling Biden an illegitimate president, because whatever truth we articulate, they will seek to counteract with lies. Just because they're very passionate about lying doesn't make it right for the truth to shrink into itself and try and make itself a smaller target. Phil wants to know, wasn't Mueller handcuffed to a degree by the Attorney General? Yes, William Barr definitely stomped on the Mueller report. He misrepresented it in his summary that he wrote on the weekend of the Mueller report being released. So he was primed and ready to spin something, to spin the findings of the Mueller report. But Robert Mueller is culpable of not making those findings more plain. We don't know everything that was obscured. We don't know all of the blacked out, redacted material from the Mueller report. But Robert Mueller didn't come out swinging in any clear way when William Barr lied about what the report was describing and what was contained in the report's contents. So William Barr said the report doesn't have evidence of obstruction, and I've looked at it and it's fine. Within a weekend, he said, nope, the president is cleared on obstruction and on collusion with Russia. Robert Mueller might have said under questioning some months later, oh, if I could have cleared the president, I would have said that I could. But he chose to hide in lawyer speak. He chose to hide behind the weight of indecipherable to the common people lawyer language and chose to put weight in a 1974 memo from the Office of Legal Counsel saying a president shouldn't be prosecuted. And that decision he made to say, well, because the president can't defend himself in court, it's not right for me to make any pronouncement on his guilt or not. So even though I want to keep excusing Robert Mueller, the outcome of his report highlights his inadequacy and highlights his loyalty to institutions and processes and 1974 memos rather than his grasp of the urgency of speaking truth to a criminal president. Whether it was because Robert Mueller didn't want to make himself too big a target for vengeful Republican loyalists, MAGA loyalists, whether Robert Mueller just wanted to pass the buck so it was somebody else's problem to call out Trump's criminal activity in obstructing justice, whatever Robert Mueller's motivations were and whatever Merrick Garland's motivations are now, it's distressing and it appears that it will facilitate more corruption. So a lot of people are cranky at Merrick Garland today, and I can see why that might be the case. All right. And hopefully there's still room for him to redeem himself. He's not William Barr. He is not committed to crime all the way with Donald J. person. He's just maybe not enough for what the present circumstances require. So being critical of Merrick Garland now could be part of the motivation he needs to hear the outrage of the people and not to just say, oh, my job is to defend the Department of Justice against the changing will of the people. His job is to act morally, and the people are outraged because they perceive that there is a degree of immorality in helping Trump get away with crime. Marsha says, I cannot excuse Mueller. I've tried for years as well, and it's been a gut-wrenching disappointment because we did naively look to Mueller as a savior figure who was going to shine a torchlight of truth on Trump's activities. He chose instead to use legalese to obscure Trump's guilt, to say, oh yes, well, I'm just going through the process. I don't want to appear like I'm attacking Trump. I'll just be very careful about what I say. And he wrote 2 letters to Barr, one of which only has been made public. And people are like, oh, well, if you understood legal language, then you would know this is quite a severe reproach to Barr. It's like, stop expecting the public to be lawyers, Robert Mueller. This is an issue for the public. You were the special prosecutor as a public servant to make it clear to the public what had happened, and you helped obscure it. Whilst you might have brought truth to life and given legal pundits lots to talk about and people who are interested in or who understand the obscurities of legal text, you needed to bring truth to bear on the situation where criminals were obscuring the path, criminals were obscuring their activities in order to not just get away with crimes, but to get away with more crimes. And those crimes and that misconduct has killed so many people that it is no longer viable for me to keep excusing Robert Mueller for his weakness in dealing with the contentious situation of a criminal president. Well, thank you, Marsha. Marsha is giving me some positive feedback for how I am describing the approach that was lacking in rigorous clarity, rigor and clarity, because whilst the hard work was there to establish the different legal elements that you need to establish that a crime of obstruction has been committed, the clarity was not there because not everybody has a legal vocabulary. Not everybody has the mental muscle, and I certainly don't, to wade through the multiple negatives in any given sentence to find out exactly what it was that Robert Mueller was trying to say about Trump. And I tried to read the Mueller report, and some bits of it were impenetrable to me, as I have no legal training and no familiarity with some of that vocab. The vocab was like a mass of thickets. It was like a briar bush that Brer Rabbit was hiding in. So, I seem to have brought up something that says a nice, somebody speaking plainly. So let's hear John Lewis speaking plainly about Donald Trump.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You do not consider him a legitimate president. Why is that?
I think the Russians participated in having this man get elected, and
Yes.
they helped destroy the candidacy of Hillary Clinton. I don't plan to attend an inauguration. It would be the first one that I missed since I've been in the Congress. You cannot be at home with something that you feel that is wrong.
That's going to send a big message to a lot of people in this country that you don't believe he's a legitimate president.
I think there was a conspiracy on the part of the Russians and others to help him get elected. That's not right. That's not fair.
That's right.
That's not the open democratic process. I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You do not consider him a legitimate president. Why is that?
Wow. I missed that because people over time might have softened their condemnations of Trump, and the media might have helped to normalize the idea that whatever controversies were associated with Russian efforts to help elect Trump, that's Republicans have sufficiently challenged it enough, or Donald Trump's called it a lie enough times to make it contentious. It's not verified fact. And the thing is, it is verified fact. A bipartisan Senate committee has found that a former Kremlin operative, a current Kremlin operative, Konstantin Kilimnik, he was thought to be former. He was found to be working in an ongoing capacity for Vladimir Putin. He met with Paul Manafort. He met with Rick Gates. Paul Manafort being the campaign manager of Trump's election campaign. Rick Gates being the deputy campaign manager of Trump's election campaign in 2016. And they met with a Russian intelligence officer, and they handed over internal polling data to a Russian operative who could then pass it on to the $1 million team of people working for the IRA, the Internet Research Agency, this branch of this Russian organization, Russian government organization, that's mission statement was to interfere with the election and to tilt it to Trump's favor, causing Trump to be elected and for Trump to be knowingly and secretly beholden to the Russian government. It's not just that it's not right and it's not fair. The implications are that outcomes for Americans under Trump's rule would be worse because Trump's loyalty was divided. Trump was loyal to a foreign adversarial leader for assistance in helping him achieve power. Oh, Kevin Hewitt's here from Montgomery County. Hello, Kevin. Nice to see you. Bob is trying to say something in defense of Mueller, that when Mueller was asked if without the memo could Trump be charged and arrested, he said yes. Yes, but that's not, that's still a statement of possibility. That's not a statement of should Trump be charged and arrested after he's not in office anymore. So we project into that and say, oh, so Mueller's just saying very clearly that Trump could be arrested and charged, i.e. he should be. Mueller's not saying that. Mueller's just saying there is a protective veil over a president in office, and I have respected that idea. He's not saying what the outcome will be or should be. He's saying what the outcome could be. Yep. Trump could be arrested. Anybody could be arrested next year because you don't know what they'll do. You don't know what the police will find. You don't know what the prosecutors will investigate. So it all could happen. So that statement was never as strong as people on the left would like to think, including myself. I think I didn't get behind it at the time, trying to push that forward as that's Mueller asserting that Trump was guilty. Mueller was very adamant that he wouldn't make a pronouncement about Trump's guilt. So we can't find any strength in that statement from Mueller. That's just not something that the right has to accept as evidence of Trump's guilt. That's just Mueller speaking to possibilities. Anything could happen, yes. When Trump's out of office, anything can happen, yes. But while he's in office, I'm not going to prosecute him. I'm not going to articulate whether or not I think there's evidence of guilt. I'm going to be obscure about all of it because I see my role as to not be clear. His role as determined by himself was to not be clear. So it wasn't just that Barr blocked him. It wasn't just that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein worked hard to land the plane and maybe manipulate Mueller. Mueller all by himself made that sabotage possible through his devotion to the appearance of bipartisanship, the appearance of not holding somebody accountable if they're Republican, because that's partisan. You can't hold somebody accountable if they're a member of a political party, but particularly not if they're a member of the Republican political party, because they will be outraged and they will cry that they are being persecuted. And they will use every lever possible to leverage public opinion into feeling sorry for them when they are the ones engaging in criminal misconduct. That's just a strategy because the Republican Party is the last bastion of defenders of white dominance in the United States. And so the animus that motivates them, the grievance culture that drives them is real and is because it's based on a real perception of loss. It's not real in the sense of there's any danger of white persecution. Nobody's inverting societal dynamics and trying to recreate the antebellum dynamic in reverse. Antebellum meaning pre-war, before the war, as we learned yesterday, before the Civil War in America. Nobody's going to put white people in chains to flip the model of slavery on its head. There will conceivably be loss of opportunity for white people who might have achieved success at a nepotistic white favoritism sense. So that half nugget of truth helps generate a great deal of anxiety and fear and contrarianism, reflexively contrarian politics, where you just hate Democrats because they stand for multiculturalism and you want there to be a hierarchy of worth still where white people are given favorable treatment. Not just that black people are persecuted, but that white people are given favorable treatment, and you don't want that to end. Whether you understand or not that this is what motivates you, you have a subconscious understanding of white favoritism systems. And you need that extra, or you believe you need that extra ball in your court. You believe you need that favoritism to get ahead, and you're unwilling to feel loss, and you're willing to fight to keep whatever it is that you have now. And what you have now is still a system of some entrenched favorability, that police will be more polite to you, that you'll be less likely to be shot at a traffic stop, that you will always be able to see negative outcomes happening to black people and feel some relief to your anxiety of, phew, according to my system of understanding the world, bad things happen to bad people, and I know that I'm white and good, and therefore I can rest assured that I'm safe and that people I love will be safe. It's a system of self-soothing that some people can grow out of, and some people haven't yet had enough stick or enough carrot to move beyond that system. Molly says she thinks Trumplican legislators didn't find Trump guilty in either of his 2 impeachment cases because they have a connection to his illegal political practices and money. I think there's a lot of points of connection, aren't there? There's his voting base that have elevated Trump to the role of a savior who's supported by Jesus, as we've seen in depictions of Trump as having cloudy Jesus figure behind him directing his pen to write executive orders. Yes. Oh, that's why people are talking about Giuliani, because there's a leaked tape. That is exciting. Let's see if we can find the tape. All right. Oh, I just want to clarify before about Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. I've just seen someone write it very succinctly. Merrick Garland's DOJ argues in a new brief that it should be permitted to substitute itself for Donald Trump as a defendant in a defamation lawsuit brought by a longtime magazine columnist, E.J.Carrol, who accused him of rape. So that's why people are mad at Merrick Garland, because the Department of Justice is substituting itself for Donald Trump. All right, new audio of 2019 phone call reveals Rudolph Giuliani on tape pressuring Ukraine to investigate Biden as a clear quid pro quo. One more smoking gun amongst many. We could have a 40 smoking gun salute. But yes, to anybody who wants to complain why has Rudy gotten away with it all, at least the feds have raided Rudy Giuliani's home, and they have oh, Sun Person, do you have I know you have more classes today. When's your next class?
I don't know.
You don't know? Oh, that's a problem.
I'll find my school iPad.
I'll check too. Found it? What have you got next? You've got PE at some point.
Exactly right now.
Exactly right. No, PE is group A is PE now.
Oh
When's
gosh.
when's group B?
Group B is at 2:05. 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's good.
Okay, and your sister has a class too. I've just suddenly got panicky about that. She's got the library. When's her library class? Sorry, everybody. Oh, she's got library right now. Could you turn off the television, darling? Please excuse me for a second. Let's see if I can find a video of Rudy Giuliani to play. Okay, good. This is an old one. No. Sweetie, you have library right now, darling. You're hungry? We have to go have library first. It's right this second.
Can you help me set it up?
Yeah, I'll come help you set up. Jamie, could you help us, sweetie?
Oh, Mommy
I'm
said
coming.
that she,
I am coming, but just while I take a
like,
second.
I'll help you set it up. Jamie, can you help me set it up?
I know.
Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older
exactly.
young people, to plenty of young people.
So
But look at what's going on
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
Sure, I want you to
I
be.
wanted to I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes.
Because I don't want to create a panic. Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob, because today and yesterday some startling facts came out. It's not just old.
Okay. All right. So the Rudy leak, hello, Kevin, the Rudy leak that I mentioned is, let's find it. It relates to the blackmail of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky when Trump was trying to prevent Joe Biden from becoming his running man. Have I misspelled Rudy Giuliani, and that's why I'm not getting much results? You have to wait till after library, darling. No, I can't. Sweetie, I'm in the middle of a broadcast. Don't know what that's referencing. Okay. Wow, Donald Trump is launching a speaking tour with Bill O'Reilly. I mean, we always have to watch out for projection. A projection of our wishes, motivated thinking, wishful thinking. Baby girl, you've got to sit down for your library class. You're sitting down, and I'll get you something else afterwards. You can have some more of. I'm still looking up Rudy Giuliani. Oh, I just noticed the Arizona Secretary of State just said 53 minutes ago, let me be clear, as a champion for voting rights, I am calling on Congress to scrap the filibuster and pass the For the People Act immediately. Nobody should play political games when our right to the ballot is at stake. And it's not just an ideal. This is about people's lives. We need democracy because we need that flexibility. We need Your dad is not taking a nap down. All right. Every time you're looking it up for the Giuliani leak, it's about his hair. Yes. I know. I had it a second ago. It's almost as if Twitter ate it. Oh, somebody from the Department of Justice is apparently saying that the case now being argued in federal court with E.J.Carrol suing Trump for defamation, for saying that she was lying about him raping her, that it might set a precedent that could then affect all other cases. Modern times gives us so much cause to step back and say, where are there systems of institutional protectionism taking hold? Because that's can uphold an institution, and it can erode the very core moral principles that supposedly underpin the institution in question. So when the Catholic Church gets caught up in protecting all of its priests and all of its archbishops, and it neglects to care anymore about the health, the psychological and emotional health of children, and it just it facilitates pedophilic abuse by moving around priests who are entrenched in those patterns of behavior from parish to parish so that they can have more victims, just because their predominant concern is for the reputation of the institution, the Catholic Church. And that has affected other religious institutions as well. It's affected the Boy Scouts, places where people have said, on the balance of probabilities, should I listen to accusers? Should I entertain the idea that they're speaking the truth? Or should I ignore them and brush as much evidence under the carpet as possible? So there's a fine line between discounting motivated accusers who aren't telling the truth because they're drama. And that's very rare for children to do that, because children very rarely have the sort of complicated yearnings for revenge or self-advancement, reputational or yearnings for notoriety and influence that an adult might have. And I'm thinking specifically of Tara Reid, who wanted to make a difference, who wanted to weaponize her short experience working in a mail sorting capacity in Biden's, in a back corner of Biden's Senate offices. She wanted to leverage that into a rape story so she could bring down Biden's candidacy when he was running against Donald Trump last year, which he did successfully, despite her claims, because there were enough people who did have the capacity to go, okay, we'll take you seriously, and we'll look at your story, and we'll look at your pattern of behavior over your life, and we'll see that your claim to have been raped in a busy Senate corridor during the daytime after you brought then Senator Joe Biden his gym bag doesn't stand up to scrutiny. It's not only implausible because of where you claimed it happened, it's implausible because of your pattern of deceit that you are now exposed as having lied to over 10 at least juries about your academic credentials. You lied that you had a bachelor's degree. You lied to the University of Seattle to say that you had a bachelor's degree and obtained a law degree fraudulently, as well as receiving an expert witness fee fraudulently because you didn't have an undergraduate degree. Tara Reid pretended she was an expert and also used the fact that she'd been an administrative aide in Biden's office to pretend that she'd been a legislative aide and had helped write the Violence Against Women Act that Joe Biden pushed for, that Joe Biden helped write, not Tara Reid. You can believe her if you like, but the pattern of defrauding people in her life means you're very gullible to ignore that significant pattern of fraud and the significant holes in her changing story. The fact that she wrote blog accounts of what happened to her while she was employed, and that she initially said she was harassed by other staff, and that she felt that Joe Biden didn't take her seriously when she wanted to complain, that she felt she couldn't make her complaints heard at high enough a level. So you have someone who's very immersed in collecting grievances and fabricating grievances against people. She defrauded a charity for pregnant horses, where she volunteered for the charity, she worked for the charity, but then she stole from that charity. And she has been outed by the owner of that charity as having begged to be given a horse which after she was given the horse, she then found a vet out of town down the track to take that horse to and say, I'm just doing this on behalf of the pregnant mare charity, so please charge the charity for these vet bills. Now, that was fraud because it was her own horse that she had been given at her own, after requesting it repeatedly from the owner of this particular charity. So that pattern of fraud, that pattern of pretending that she's been wronged by someone, because when she was called out on Facebook for failing to pay back the $1,400 that she had fraudulently got an out-of-town veterinarian to bill a charity, she said, how could you do this to me? Of course I'll pay you back. You know how hard my life is, blah, 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 blah. Always the victim, always prepared to escalate her claims to include the people who call her out as her new abusers. So yes, what I should do straight away if somebody outs themselves as believing Tara Reid is just block them, because there's adequate levels of evidence to show that that woman is not arguing in good faith, and that yes, she actually works for Russia Times now. You might know it as RT. It's a news network that promotes the perspectives of the Kremlin. It's a news network that perpetually diminishes what democracy is, because it will help Vladimir Putin stay in power if people in Russia laugh at American democracy and think it's ridiculous. Bob wants to know if anyone here has been asked for ID when voting. I've never been asked for ID. Neither have I, Bob. I vote in Australia, or I vote in an Australian ambassador, but yes. Kevin is an election judge here and has never seen it in his district. I think it's rare if you live in a district that's not a majority Black district. I imagine the ID requests are introduced to create additional burdens for Black voters to exercise their right to vote. And there's a long history of that in the United States, people deceiving the public, or people putting up a cover story of this is necessary to ensure democracy is working ideally, that we have these hoops for certain wink voters to jump through. We have the grandfather clause, meaning that you have to own land, or with the exception of if your grandfather was a citizen, i.e. if you're a newly freed slave or the child of a freed slave and you're old enough to vote, you won't be able to do it because you don't have a grandfather who was a citizen, because your grandfather was enslaved. So yes, that clause has that racist origin of being a way that conservative-minded people in the United States, people who were dedicated to conserving a chattel slavery status quo, or a status quo of hierarchical white favoritism and hierarchical Black dispossession and persecution. So yes, it is. The tasks that Black people were made to perform before voting were as arcane as being asked to count bubbles on a bar of soap, or to recite passages of the Constitution, or to pay a poll tax. You might recognize that energy and that same target in the actions of Florida Republicans who prevented people from voting in the 2020 elections if they had outstanding fines. So knowing that police officers are more likely to fine, or disproportionately likely to fine Black Americans, and disproportionately more likely to stop a Black person driving a vehicle and then find a reason to charge them and fine them. It's called It's not just being biased against someone, it's being primed to find fault with someone. Bob is noting a priest from the church he went to when young was a pedophile, and he received a letter from a law firm recently if you needed to put in a claim. Phil is saying that in Colorado, he had an election official stop by to verify his son's signature for mail-in ballot. Obviously, Trump understood that there would be a favoring of the mail-in ballot method during a pandemic that Democrats took more seriously because Republicans were lied to by an authority figure they trusted, namely Trump. They were lied to that the COVID pandemic wasn't serious. They were lied to that mail-in ballots were inherently suspicious, despite the fact that some states vote almost entirely by mail-in voting, and that people in the military have used mail-in voting systems for decades, and there has been no suggestion that there is patterns of tampering or fraud associated with that. It's not just baseless, it's outrageously false. So Phil at least appreciated the verification. I'm of two minds because I appreciate them establishing that the election was secure, but I also am suspicious of the motivations of people who go out looking for something that's unlikely. Like it's likely to be very rare that people seek to fabricate someone else's signature, but it does happen. I've heard of a few cases now of there was a man, was it in Colorado, who killed his wife and then voted for Trump on her behalf. So yes, I guess we'll just be glad for some people being conscientious in verifying that elections are secure. But we're also going to be not grateful for Republicans trying to advance a narrative of widespread election fraud and widespread voter fraud when voters, or the prosecutions for voting discrepancies have often been, well, notably been for Black people who have made an innocent mistake. And I'm thinking of the really awful case now of Crystal Mason, a woman on probation, having served a sentence for doing something wrong with her tax fraud. She'd served a sentence, she was on probation. Her mother encouraged her to vote in the 2016 election. When she went to vote, she wasn't on the electoral roll, and she didn't know why that would be. So she consulted with an election official who told her to vote provisionally, because then that vote will be looked at going forwards by election officials who will be able to determine if her vote should be counted, if there was just an error in omitting to put her name on the electoral rolls, or if there was another problem. So Crystal Mason missed the small print that said, do not vote if you are on probation, or blah, 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 blah. She voted, she handed her provisional vote to an election official and left, and was later arrested and convicted of voter fraud for having voted when she wasn't allowed, even though she voted provisionally. And that is a provision that exists for people who are not entirely sure if they are allowed to vote or not. There's some question about whether or not they have the right to vote. So provisional voting exists for that gray area. She used it, and she was sentenced to 5 years in jail. So that sentence is being appealed. 2 Texas judges have already rejected her appeal, and she's now in a halfway house. You can Google her name if you'd like to check it out. Crystal Mason, Texas. Yes, in Colorado, you only have mail-in ballots. And that murder fraud case happened in Colorado. There you go. So we don't know that that man murdered his wife just to be able to vote on her behalf for Trump, but he certainly exploited the situation of having murdered his wife to make an attempt to falsify an extra vote for Trump. I have a good memory, Phil, and I pay attention to stories about cases of voter fraud that have occurred. All right. All right, well, I have found something about Giuliani now, and I guess the way I can follow it more is to click on the story that says exclusive new audio of 2019 phone call reveals how Giuliani pressures the former president. Oh, no, it's not former president. It's current president. Volodymyr Zelensky is still the president of Ukraine. Hi, John from Chicago. Nice to see you. Molly was asked for ID in 2016. It was the year that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that the state Senate passed ID bill was illegal. She loudly announced that if anyone asked for photo ID, they were not obligated to do so. Good for you, Molly. But yes, it's tricky because we want everybody to know that. We want people who don't have voter ID to be confident, or not voter ID, who don't have the particular voter ID that has been specified by any Republican legislators in a given state, because...
Okay, so we should have on the line here America.
Okay, let's listen to this Rudy Giuliani call.
Meaning meddling in the election.
It was the call that set events in motion.
Okay, so we should have on the line here America's mayor, Mayor Giuliani, and we have Andrei Yermak.
Thrusting a reluctant Ukraine into America's divided politics. We already know through transcripts and testimony, Giuliani pressured them to announce investigations important to then President Trump. But this is the first time we've heard his actual voice.
I want very much to see that our two countries are able to work together.
How Giuliani cajoled the Ukrainian presidential advisor on the other end of the line, first promoting debunked conspiracy theories that Ukraine, not Russia, was involved in US election meddling in 2016 and tried to hurt the Trump campaign.
Way back in last November, I got information from a reliable investigator, international investigator, that there was a certain amount of activity in Ukraine during the 2016 election that involved Ukrainian officials and Ukrainian mostly officials being asked by our embassy and possibly by other American officials. Basically, I mean, the statement was to produce dirt on then candidate Trump and Paul Manafort.
By the time of the call in July 2019, Joe Biden had already emerged as the Democratic Party's frontrunner to challenge President Trump. Digging up dirt on Biden, like the unfounded allegations of corrupt dealings in Ukraine when he was vice president, had become a priority for Trump and his longtime advisor. Throughout the roughly 40-minute call, Giuliani repeatedly pressed the Ukrainian leadership to publicly announce investigations into this too, something that would have undoubtedly benefited Trump's re-election campaign and damaged candidate Biden. Listen to how Giuliani sets out what's required.
And all we need from the president is to say, I'm going to put an honest prosecutor in charge. He's going to investigate and dig up the evidence that presently exists, and is there any other evidence about involvement of the 2016 election? And then the Biden thing has to be run out. I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I see him bragging about it on.
Yeah. So when Giuliani is saying, I see him bragging about it on television, right-wing media was circulating video of Joe Biden, then Vice President Joe Biden in the Obama administration, saying, yes, we pushed the Ukraine to oust corrupt prosecutor Anyway, they used U.S. the idea of withholding US aid until that prosecutor was removed because he was stalling investigations of cases. So Joe Biden was not acting unilaterally. He was joined by various actors in Europe who all wanted Ukraine to be free of various Russia-associated corruption in order to function as a stable, respected player in Europe and as a stable, respected American ally as well. Yes, sometimes I answer questions in good faith. I do more than report anecdotal stories. I can show you data overall that illustrates voter fraud is extremely rare and as established by research. So the trouble is the people who ask those type of questions who haven't accepted the plethora of evidence already available are not likely to accept any evidence I put forward. I can do it, but it's a waste of time for me personally, but I can do it. So we'll bring up a Brennan Center article or a Reuters article, but yes, and then you will say, oh, well, I don't accept that as evidence. And I'll say, thank you. All right, so John claims to be a Democrat. Here we go. Voter fraud is extremely rare. Yes, now you can have something to eat, sweetie. What did Daddy bring back from the shops? I gave you a sandwich before and 2 spoonfuls of Nutella. What would you like? Do you want some apple? And you're probably thirsty as well. Daddy will get you a drink of water. I don't have the ingredients for pancakes right now. You can check in the freezer if Daddy brought any more cookies. Okay. How rare is voter fraud? Justin Levitt, a law professor at Loyola Law School who tracks such cases, identified only 31 impersonation incidents between the year 2000 and the year 2014. So that's 14 years, 31 impersonation incidents tracked through the legal system out of more than 1 billion votes cast. 5 states, Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Utah, and Washington, hold their elections primarily by mail and have documented almost no cases of voter fraud. Oh, sweetie. Sweetie, you've gone off a little bit. And I don't think you're entertaining the possibility that it's just sensible of me to be suspicious of people who interrupt my broadcast by saying, excuse me, do you answer questions? Anecdotal data is not helpful. Where is your evidence that voter fraud is rare? If you're a Democrat, you already know voter fraud is rare. So it's not what intelligent people do. You don't need to challenge me on something that's widely accepted. Intelligent people know that voter fraud is extremely rare in the United States, unless they have thinking that is highly colored by partisan arguments, namely the motivated thinking of Republicans who want to pretend that voter fraud is frequent because they want to make it more difficult for Black Americans to vote because they know that voting population is the backbone of the Democratic Party. Now I've been talking for an hour and I'm going to go feed my child some snacks. You want to cut it?
There's no cookies. I don't know what to eat.
Okay, what do you think we can eat? Do you think Mummy needs to go out and buy some more butter to make pancakes? That you haven't had? Oh, you have had raspberries. You haven't had any other fruit. Would you like some apple? Anyway, let's wave goodbye to the people.
Bye. Bye.
Oh,
first, before you say bye, can I fit in my 6-figure?
Yeah, you can. He's swearing because he was upset that I doubted his credentials as a person asking in good faith. Intelligent people swear, sure, but do intelligent people usually swear at a broadcaster that they're interrupting?
I'm not fitting my 6-figure.
Yeah, you can. So I'll get there. I might have to get this
This is
thing
my
out of the
stick
way.
figure.
Wait.
Hold on, why can't I say it?
There, now you can.
This is my stick figure. But this is my stick figure.
It's a good job.
Okay.
We cut.
So
How
her
did you make
arms
it?
can move. I made it with sticky tape. She can also sit down. My mom helped me by teaching me how to do the eyes. She has some hair at the back, although very dark and hard to see. And she's wearing a dress.
Did you color in the dress?
Yes.
Maybe you could make her a dress
I
out
had
of
a
paper.
few mistakes because I'm like, why won't this blue work? Why won't this
Yeah,
work?
because the purple is already a dark color, so that's
I
why it's
know.
hard to draw on top. But if you drew a dress on different paper and cut that paper out, then you could stick a dress on. And a crown if you wanted.
Ooh.
Oh, I thought you might like that idea.
This is
Oh,
hello.
Marsha
Hello.
says, very nice. You've got some. Oh, I accidentally clicked us away.
She said hello.
Yeah.
because
She's. Oh, and Let It Be says, I like purple. Thank you. You got some positive feedback for your stick figure, darling. So thank you. It's been an hour for the pro-democracy variety broadcast. I'm sorry if you didn't feel that I answered your question expeditiously enough, John Rosemount. I tend to only like being interrupted if it advances the conversation rather than challenges me. But look, that was a good challenge in a way because it got us to go back to some source material for something that I'm taking for granted everybody knows. But you know what? You've drawn my attention to the fact that not everybody knows that voter fraud is rare. And certainly that's counter-propaganda that's necessary in a highly propagandized environment, that we need to reinforce the basic truth for everybody that voter fraud is very rare and that mail fraud's been, good. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Can we say, oh, Mummy's going to say thank you, Patreons.
I can say it in a different language.
What do you want to say in a different language? Are you going to say bye?
Goodbye.
Okay.
Different
Okay,
language.
you say goodbye.
Xie
Can you say,
再见.
can you say au revoir?
Au revoir.
Can you say arrivederci?
Arrivederci.
Huh, that was good. What else? Oh, shalom.
Shalom.
Sayonara.
Sayonara. Mommy, I think you probably got sayonara from Brainchild because, like, it says sayonara on Brainchild, like in the bacteria one.
I already knew the word sayonara. Cyanide. Oh, yeah. All right. Aloha. Thank you so much, Kim, for.
Aloha.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you so much, Kim, for calling out people when they make awards, which I might not have registered. Thank you so much to everybody who's done that today and always.
And remember to watch Raya.
Oh, my daughter would like.
And the Lost Dragon. It's a really good movie.
Do you want to review that movie? What else would you like to say about that movie?
That movie is about a girl called Raya. Sorry, I just like to call her Raya because it sounds better.
Why is it an excellent movie? Why did our family love it?
It's because, like, there's one bit which I was like, what the? But it was at the beginning.
But overall, what did you think were the strengths of the movie? Like, what leapt out at you?
At the end, there was, like, a bit where Raya...
No spoilers, no spoilers. We just have to say overall why we're telling somebody we think they should watch it.
Yeah,
Does it have some good characters in it or anything?
Saying that, like, trusting her friends.
Oh, so trust is the theme of the movie, isn't it?
Yeah, but... And her friends thought she can do it, but...
That sounds like a spoiler. Okay, you're down here. They might watch it. We like them to watch it because it's a good movie. It's a movie that's very critical for American politics in that it's about finding a way to trust people even if they have betrayed you and hurt you. Oh, no, not yet, Bob. I did notice a tab open on the screen.
Bob.
Yeah.
I gotta tell Jamie.
Okay, you go tell Bob. No, but I still have a window tab open, so I'm glad you reminded me because sometimes it takes 20 reminders for me to get to something. Bob is my son's favorite name to use in fictional writing, so he frequently calls.
Oh, back in the day, my brother wrote a story called where there were characters named Bob 1 and Bob 2.
True. Twin brothers.
Also in Roblox, his name is Yita Bob.
Don't tell him that. Remember, we have some privacy on the internet.
And
we try.
One time I saw Jeff and he was like, my name is Jeff.
Yeah. Okay, that's all. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.